Hello and welcome to another episode of our podcast at Conversation Time. We have Matthew Hinshaw, junior mechanical engineering, avid tap dancer, good baker,
Decent. I'm alright.
and you love mechanics. Anything else you want to add on?
Also really enjoyed playing pool. That was
Enjoy playing pool. That was the last one. We have Yash with us. He is a first year grad student at MIT. He was with us at BU. Yash, what's a fun fact about you?
Oh my god. My fun fact would be that I watch a lot of TV shows. I've probably seen more than 200 TV shows.
I haven't. I think I'm in grade 20.
Yeah, I'm obsessed. I've gotten better since I got to college, but yeah, it was bad.
And we have Sarah Nemsick, who is part of the STEM Pathways at BU team. Sarah, fun fact.
I have the entirety of Shrek the Musical memorized.
You've had that fun fact ready to go too.
That's my default fun fact because no one can ever
I haven't done fun facts since freshman year, so it took me a couple of seconds.
I've got like my solid set of like
Yeah.
10 fun facts that no one is ready for.
That's good.
Alright, so we're here to talk about our summer.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry. I'm Rohin. I am usually behind the camera, but this time decided to be in front of the camera. I don't have any fun facts. Let's just roll with that. But coming back to our conversation, how have our summers impacted us?
Sure. I can go ahead and open this up here. So, I spent the last 2 summers and this coming summer with GE Aviation doing primarily work in manufacturing and operations and things like that. And I would say the biggest impact is taking what I learned over the summer and seeing how it connects to what I do in engineering school. I think it really changes how I approach my classes and how I approach what classes I want to take and how I learn things in those classes and what I value in those classes based on what I've seen over the summer and seen, well, this is something I might want to do one day. These are the skills I need to do it. This is what I'm going to focus on in school. So it's kind of giving me that lens with which to look through and to prioritize.
So I did research all summer that I was at BU, and going off of what Matthew said, the way it impacted what I'm doing right now is that it gave me skills that I could not have gotten out of college, out of just going to class. And especially because I wanted to get into research and wanted to do a PhD, I felt like getting those skills and like learning how to do research and learning the art or science of research was really important to me. And that's why I was here all 4 summers working in different labs and kind of just picking up as many skills as I could while I was here.
Yeah, I also do research. This is my second summer doing research. I agree with both of you. A lot of my research has shaped the classes I'm taking. So as I've done research, I've realized I really love certain things and I really, really hate certain things. And I think that's an important part of college is realizing, oh, I'm really interested in this and I'm not any degree interested in this. So research has really shaped like, oh, I know I like this. I know I should take this class. And it also is giving you so many skills. Like, you wouldn't think pipetting is a skill until you see someone who doesn't know how to pipette, and then you're like, it's a skill.
Yeah.
I think that was a great point. But what happens when you're trying to find it? What is that struggle like?
Oh my god.
Fun story. So I randomly was going through old emails the other day because I was procrastinating, and I came across all the emails I sent to professors in August of my freshman year. So before I even came to BU, asking to get into their research lab. It was a sad bunch of emails. They were awfully written. And I'm looking at them, I'm like, I can't imagine these people would ever take me seriously after that. But so it was like 20 emails I sent out to 20 different professors. Some responded, some did never responded. And some like instantly said that, oh, I don't have a position. Some were like, I remember Mo Khalil was really nice in his response, but he didn't have a position then. Also, why would anyone want to give a position to a freshman? But anyway,
You're showing initiative.
Exactly.
Like you're reaching out there.
Exactly. Or like not even a freshman who's been here for a while. It's someone who's not even at BU. So I was very naive, but I felt like once I did that, I was like, I've done something, and I came in, and then I started actively looking for stuff, and luckily, all of them, like literally even after that, when I emailed people, all of them were rejections. But then the IGEM application dropped onto my lap, and I knew someone who'd applied for IGEM the year previously, and she essentially guided me through the interview process and was like, so this is what you should kind of work on before you go. Like study this and help, and like she helped me through the process, and I feel like that was instrumental in me kind of impressing the people who were selecting the IGEM team, and yeah, I ended up on it. And since the great thing about research is that once you're in, because once you're in, you have like no matter even if you don't like the research you're doing, you get a certain set of experiences and certain set of skills that you can then leverage to get into labs that you actually do like. So even though I like had a great experience in both the labs that I worked in, I feel like it's really important to just try to do something and keep trying, keep at it, and it's very luck based.
But yeah, luck and all in its place.
Yeah.
There's a little disheartening, you know, when you don't get that acceptance.
Yeah.
I don't know what's worse, someone rejecting you or the professors not emailing back. And that happens with internships as well.
Oh.
My freshman year, I applied to 14 internships and I literally didn't even get a response. Like, it's a weird trend. It's less severe with professors because they're like people, they're a little, they understand. But a lot of like internships and summer job type places just don't respond to you.
Their resumes just go in a black hole.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know what happened here.
You know, there was a phase of my life when I was like, I should probably look at companies because I might get a job after undergrad and not do research at all. And then I like applied to 15 different internships, and I didn't hear back from any of them. And I'm like, oh, this is probably a sign that I should continue doing research. Just stick with what I like doing.
The career fair is a fantastic place to go because if you're in front of the person talking to them, they can't ignore you. They can't look at your resume and go, just slide it underneath. They have to at least like say some words to you. So you get a little bit of face time there, and I think that's a really good resource. It's how I found my internship.
So what's your experience been like? We've done the lab stuff and the BU stuff. How about you?
I guess I had a bit of a unique experience. I got lucky. I really think I got lucky. I don't know what I did. Freshman year, like I was a month into school, maybe, and I went to that first career fair, talked to the people at GE, and maybe it was by initiative? I don't know. I don't know what else I brought to the table at that point. But so I went and talked, and I somehow got an interview and somehow got an offer, and kind of, it's the same exact thing after that. Basically, as somebody told me after my first internship, because there's a lot of people that go back to GE year after year, somebody who had worked before said, look, as long as you don't like kill anybody, they'll let you back next year. Which was really, really rewarding because I was like, I was really stressing out about this. You have a pitch out at the end where you present leadership, which is pretty stressful. And they were like, it's fine. You're going to get a return offer. Just don't really mess up. Just don't break anything. It's like, do what you got to do. Don't break anything and you'll come back. So it's really that first foot in the door.
And then like what you said about going to the first career fair, I didn't go to a career fair until my junior year, and I feel like that was the biggest difference, right? You took the initiative of preparing for a career fair in a month after getting to BU, and they saw that, and they wanted to mentor you. I've seen that more and more companies want to take in people who are not like on a path already. They want to put them on their path so that they can train them through by the time you may get a job offer, like an official job offer, you would have worked there for 3 summers, right? And that's like so much training time that they usually can't afford with other people. So yeah, that's all you needed to do.
That's exactly what I remember Jose Calderon, the person who did my interview and stuff, telling me was that, because I went up to them and my elevator pitch was that I'm a freshman, I heard that GE takes in freshmen sometimes for interns, which is a fantastic opportunity. Here's what I've done, here's where I'm trying to go. And he said, we like to have freshmen because we can build the kind of engineers that we would want to hire one day. And they really do take in a decent number of freshmen into those positions. And I definitely owe Professor DeWinter on that one because he was the one that really pushed everybody in my class to go to the first career fair. And I got my resume reviewed like 8 times or something like that. And that's the key too. Get your resume reviewed again and again and again by anybody who will look at it, your roommate, your dog, anybody who will look at your resume, get them to look at your resume.
every time you make changes, you made a mistake. So like
Yes.
it's always nice to get it reviewed by a ton of people. I have a question for you. Did you have skills coming into the internship process that you think helped you get that position like with the get-go?
I'm not sure. In my interview, it was very situation based, right? Tell me about a time you had to work with someone that you didn't get along with. Tell me about a time that you had to make a difficult decision. And I think what maybe, I'm spitballing, but I think what maybe set me apart a little bit was I pulled from a vast array of experiences. So I did a bunch of dance and theater in high school, so I pulled on that when they talked about communication skills. When they talked about someone you didn't get along with, I had this awful director from Macbeth, so I talked about that. When they asked about a difficult decision, I talked about deciding to go to Hillel for services during my high holidays versus going to class and how I maneuvered through that decision. And I think that kind of varied experience was something they appreciated. But still not 100% sure. Maybe I'll talk to Jose someday and be like, I'm really curious.
That's always fun. Going back to them, be like, why do you like me in the first place?
Yeah, I did that for my iGEM interviewers, and they told me all these sweet things, and I was like, oh, I wasn't that impressive, but thank you.
It's great, right? When you go back to something, why did you actually hire me? Like last time I was just told, oh, you were actually one of the people who could click pictures, so we needed that, so we hired you.
Yeah, it's very interesting to hear the reasons, because sometimes they're very small ones. Like, they're like, I think you like coding a lot. You would fit in this. It's very small stuff. It's like, you seem to have a lot of energy. The reasons people hire you are so varied, and it really depends on the interviewer, what they like in a person.
True. The most generic one for me was Mary in the lab here. So Mary, why did you hire me? I said, we're all biologists here. You're the only engineer. Okay, I'll take that.
That's valid.
You brought the variety. That's good.
I brought the variety. We had it was late at night. We were trying to do a self-free mix, and all these weird things were just going wrong. Things weren't working. The solution: we took tape and we taped everything, and it just worked. The solution to every engineer's problem is duct tape.
Zip ties.
It actually is.
Zip ties also. Zip ties are fantastic. Anytime it's rattling, it's moving, it's not doing what it's supposed to, just zip tie it everywhere and you're good to go home.
I think my proudest moment in iGEM is not like winning best hardware or anything. It's using an old Clorox white box and duct taping it so that we could put our phone on top of it to take videos of our microfluidics. That's my best thing I've ever done in college.
Innovation.
Exactly.
So what I think all of us have in a way shared that mentorship is key. You had Professor De Winter, you had the person before.
A bunch of people.
Does the mentorship keep building over the summer? Do you take on the role of being a mentor through your summer?
I mean, you gotta give back, right? That's where I come in, because I got so much mentorship when I first came into a lab, and I had so many people helping me that I felt like I had to pay that forward. So I became a student advisor. Matthew was one of my advisees his freshman year.
EK 100?
Yeah, EK 100.
We go way back.
Yeah.
We go way back.
So it's nice to be here with him and see all that he's done. And then, after my second year at BU, I essentially was like, I'm going to do as much mentorship as I can, because not only did that help me help other people, whenever you mentor someone, you always get kind of something back from it. So it was for a selfish reason, but
It's awesome. Yeah, what about you?
I think in research in general, you're always going to be mentoring people because there's always going to be someone new coming into the lab that they don't know something you know. But I mean, especially with iGEM, after doing iGEM is so mentorship based, you need good mentorship, that it's kind of hard to be in iGEM and not. iGEM's like a cult, once you're in, you're in. But it's hard to go into iGEM.
That might be a little harsh.
But once you've done iGEM, you have all these skills that are iGEM specific. So it's hard. I know Denise, who's behind the camera, and I have talked about how we want to help this year's teams tell them, oh, do this, don't do this, because we've had these experiences, and it's good to pass those along since they're kind of unique experiences to the lab, to iGEM, and to the research topic.
How does it work in industry? Do you have one guy who's with you, or
You have. Okay, so it depends on which plant you're at, depending on where you're going and how they set things up. My rotation I just had over the summer, I had the head of the business unit, Delane. She was the head of the whole department, kind of. There were 5 departments throughout the plant, probably 600 people that worked there, give or take. And then there was Joe, who was like my immediate person I went to if I had questions, but then for certain projects, I worked with this engineer in the shop, and I worked with the quality control engineer. So you end up kind of all over the place. Really, everybody you interact with knows more than you do. Like I worked extensively with the guys on the shop floor who had been machining these parts for like twice as long as I've been alive, and I was just like, how does this work? And they know, they just understand. And so if you can look at every single interaction you have as an opportunity to learn, things go a lot smoother. And if you listen to people, then later on when you go, I got this idea to change your process, they don't go, oh, you're just a kid who doesn't know what they're doing. If you've had that exchange and they've built up those personal relationships, it makes everything go smoother.
They would rather teach you than have you mess things up.
Right. But sometimes the other thing that I really have enjoyed about GE and what some of the engineers talk about is that when you come in with fresh eyes, you can look at something and go, well, that's stupid. Why are we doing it that way? But nobody else realizes that because they've been doing it for 20 years. So it gives you this unique perspective. I think on the topic of mentorship, you end up with kind of these mentorship dynamics a little bit between the different interns. If you've been there before, you can kind of help out with certain details, and there's a lot of bureaucracy in GE. So wading through some of that, and how do I get paid for housing, and how do I work with my assignment leader, and all that good stuff. But some of the projects too, if you're working on something, you got a problem that's kicking your butt. Like, maybe you won't go directly to your assignment leader. Maybe you'll go to like another intern first. Maybe you'll go like, hey, could you look at this? Maybe they've taken a class you haven't. Maybe they worked on something in a previous rotation that you haven't. And you can kind of use that network a little bit before you go to the next level and go to your boss, your assignment leader, go, I'm working on this, I don't really know how it's working. So you have those opportunities. Perhaps not in the same capacity though.
I think something you brought up is important, being the summer dilemma that we want to title this podcast as. Money. Boston is expensive in the summer. Places in general are expensive in the summer.
Living in general is just expensive.
Living in general is expensive, and studying at a private research university is also not cheap. So how do you figure out money for the summer?
It's one of the conversations that no one wants to have with their PI, but you just have to, like, if you have meetings with your PI, just bring it up. Even if you've only been there for like a month, if you're planning on staying during the summer or even just considering it, you just have to say, hey, can we take some time and talk about funding? Because some labs will pay you themselves, some labs don't, and there's a lot of research funding that BU offers, and you should always go for every single funding opportunity that BU offers. So there's Europe, which will pay you, I don't know the exact amount, but it'll pay you for
It pays
10
you for
weeks.
40 hours a week.
It's enough for housing
Yeah.
and food. When you're
And then, but the best one that everyone should apply for is STARS, because that's free housing, and it is nice free housing. You live on a Whitestone that's like literally next to every single lab. It's so nice. But there's also other funding people don't know about. Like, I didn't know about DSRF, Distinguished Summer Research Fellow, and I got it. And it's one of those things where no one applies. There's a lot of research opportunities that aren't Europe and STARS that people don't apply to. So if you apply, you're like one of 5 people, and you get it immediately. And just bites you.
I feel like
not always.
That's
But
not always true, but for the Summer Research Fellowship, I got that too. And again, people will tell you that, oh my god, it's so hard to get in, you have to have a GPA of this crazy high GPA and blah, blah, blah. But sometimes if you write a good application and if you get a good letter of recommendation, that's all you really need. And PIs will they like to have people work in their lab if they're getting paid and if they don't have to pay them.
yes.
So they're going to be super motivated to write you letters of recommendation for Europe, for STARS, for Lucian Fellowship, for the Summer Research Fellowship. Another thing I would pitch, even though I've had the privilege of having funding for all the summers I was here, but what also helped me for the last 2 years I was here is being an RA, and that gave me being a summer RA gave me essentially free housing and dining for the work I put in as an RA, and it also allowed me to do research. Even if I wanted to do research for free, I could have done that because I was taken care of through the other job that I was doing. So that's also an option people don't usually realize. And I wouldn't say it's an easy job, but it's a job that you can do in the summer because there's more time in the summer. You don't take classes.
And you brought up a really good point. Some people, it's a kind of a trend where either you take your application super seriously or you don't take it super seriously. Please do take it super seriously. I know people who did their Europe thing and they're like, yeah, I just wrote it in a couple hours and turned it in, didn't have my PI go over it, and that's the worst strategy. Whenever you're doing an application for STARS or Europe, it's a serious thing. The people like your PI will be reading this, and they can tell when you have not at least proofread it. They can tell when you haven't had someone else go over it. They can tell when you haven't put the effort into it, because they are paying you. You need to take it as a serious application.
So it is a job. Right?
Yeah,
definitely.
And you don't always get in. So I got into the research bandwagon a little late of my sophomore year. So I didn't get funding, but I managed to secure another job on campus, which helped pay the rent. It was living end to end, but somewhere at the end of the summer, I still wanted the profit.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about the summer, right? It helps that you have more time. When during the semester and you have classes running, there's barely time for you to do research. So for you to do research and another job to pay for your living expenses can be really tough. But over the summer, you can spend like your days doing research, and then you can spend like the rest of the time working on a job and paying for stuff, and that's totally fine and that's manageable.
But internships, is the payment usually involved, or?
In my experience, at least, the payment, I'll be honest, they paid me very well. GE has been far and away the best gig I've ever had. Like, let me put it this way. I worked a lot of odd jobs in high school. I painted a house once. I painted some railings. I worked at a farmer's market for a very long time. I worked at Bed Bath & Beyond for a little while, on the hard side, so I know like all the kitchenware and stuff. I don't know the sheets. Don't ask me about the sheets. But the rest of it I got. I worked for a catering company for a little while. I really was all. Oh, I worked at the equivalent of like basically the T, but for Syracuse. So all over the place. Easily the best gig I have with GE. Like they really take care of things. Also, there's a housing stipend, so they'll pay you additionally for your housing wherever you end up.
I mean, there is a disclaimer that not every company treats you as GE.
Yeah.
And every company that's big as GE. Like some companies don't have a streamlined internship program with GE. So just if you like something and if you are really excited about an opportunity, go for it, and you can pay for it through other sources and try to figure it out.
On that note, we're going to start doing last comments because Nate is already indicated we're a little low on time. Last comments. Summer dilemma. Dun, dun, dun.
Do as many varied experiences as you can. Do research. Do an internship in one field. Do an internship in a different field. Figure out what really excites you.
Apply for everything. Apply for everything and put as much time as you can. Like, do not take things less seriously than others, even though you might think that you're less excited about them. Try to put in as much work into everything you do, because that's going to show. And that's what matters. When people read your application, they're going to look at how much work you put into them, and like that always translates into the process.
Don't take rejections too seriously. It's a common thing for people just to not respond to you or to say no. Don't take that too seriously. Don't think there's something wrong with me. There's a lot of people applying for these jobs and these research positions. Just keep trying. It's worth it.
I'm just, go forth and explore. 4 years of undergraduate is what you have to explore, and then you're either stuck in a grad lab.
I wouldn't call it stuck. I've been having a lot of fun.
Or there isn't as much opportunity to explore. Moving on. But on that note, there should be a subscribe icon above my head. There should be more episodes which should be above Matthew's head, maybe. Thank you.